Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Zara and today I am going to be doing the first video in a new video series that I am going to be doing. I am going to be talking about different aspects of books that I like. And so today I'm going to be talking about things that I like in my female characters. My next video will potentially be on male characters, and then I've got one planned for world building as well. Another idea I have is doing one on morally gray characters. The potential is limitless, and I'm just excited to talk about things that I like in my books, that I like in my characters, that I like in my world building, and just, hopefully spark an interesting conversation with people who have also thought about this, with yourselves. So today we are going to be kicking it off with a video that I've been wanting to film for a while, but I just haven't had time to do it. But finally, we've got time today to sit down and talk about what I like in my female characters. Female characters for me, very rarely do I actually find a female character that I can really buy into and that I really gel with, that I can really identify with. But over the last year and a half, that has changed for me, and I'm very excited to talk about my top 5 things that I like in my female characters. As a specific note on these types of videos going forward, I will be limiting it to 5 things so that it's just a little bit contained, and I might also end up doing a series on things that I don't like and my books as well. But we're going to keep it positive first, and we'll see how this goes. If it's interesting to people and it sparks interesting conversations, then I'll definitely consider widening that out. But without further ado, let's jump into my top 5 favorite things that I like in my female characters. I'm going to be using one character per point as well to illustrate that point further. And yeah, let's get started. So the first thing I like in my female characters is that vulnerability and insecurity aren't bad things. Fantasy and sci-fi are not the only genres of fiction that are guilty of this, but we are often shown women having to adopt typically male characteristics and male traits in order to be seen as strong, in order to be seen as competent. I didn't really realize that until I started reading some of these books, and I saw that, hang on a second, women can actually have insecurities and they can have vulnerabilities and not be seen as weak. I love it when you have a character, whether it's male or female, but especially in female characters, where they can be openly vulnerable, they can be openly insecure and not be judged for that. We do that a lot in our own society, so I like seeing it in my books where a woman can just be herself, her strengths, but also the things that come with that, right? For every strength that you have, you probably have a weakness, or you probably have a vulnerability or an insecurity, and that's absolutely fine because that's human nature. And this is perfectly manifested in a character from The Winter Road by Adrian Selby, and that is Tia Amundsen. She is an absolutely phenomenal character. I read this book in Q1 of 2021, and I still think about this character very often. I love the way that she has so much depth, she has so many layers, and to this point specifically, she is openly vulnerable with the people around her, with the people that carry her and that she carries. And there is this wonderful connection between her and these characters, because not only do they see her as this strong, intellectually strong, physically strong, emotionally strong woman, but they allow her to be vulnerable, they allow her to be sad, they allow her to show through her insecurities of her leadership when things get really hard. And in reality, that is just the way that life is. I just loved seeing it portrayed by Tia Amundsen because she reminds me a lot of myself, and seeing a female character accept that she's feeling vulnerable in that moment and that is okay is such an empowering statement to make in a book, and I loved it. And I really hope that I see that more in my female characters, especially in fantasy, because I think it's harder to find in fantasy and sci-fi in particular. The number 2 thing that I like in my female characters is that they can show strength in different ways. Typically, we are shown women who are physically very strong. That can often show up with the fact that these women can, beat men who are like triple the size of them and been training for many years, whereas this woman is, marginally smaller and doesn't necessarily have the same level of experience in fighting ability. And I hate sometimes the unrealistic expectation that sets, that women who are like, this tall and this thin are able to beat men who are like triple or quadruple the size. It literally makes no sense to me. I know you want to show that a woman is strong, but you don't have to necessarily show it in the physical way. You can show that a woman, she is intellectually strong, she's intellectually curious and adept. And that is perfectly embodied by the character of Edan Marchi from The Long Price Quartet by Daniel Abraham. She is an extremely politically adept, very manipulative woman, but in a really clever way. She knows exactly what she's doing, she has intent, and she knows exactly what levers that she needs to pull in order to get people to do the things she wants them to do. And I am here for it. Even though I don't necessarily agree with some of the stuff that she does, I love the fact that she can use her brain to do it. And I love that she isn't just this woman that can do anything and everything, but what really makes her shine is her mind and her ability to outmaneuver anybody in a situation that is full of intrigue. Abraham, again, is another author that does female characters exceptionally well. And it's shown by the way that Edan also develops later on in the books, because while she still retains that manipulative nature, that intellectual intelligence thing that really sets her apart, she also becomes much more emotionally aware of how that impacts other people around her in the later on in the series. So not only are we showing that she's very intelligent intellectually, but later on in the book she also builds her emotional intelligence, which just shows massive growth for the character, and I loved it. The third thing that I'm going to talk about is the fact that, and you could kind of relate this to all of the points that I'm making, especially the previous two, but the fact that female characters can have flaws, and it's okay if they have flaws. They aren't perfect, they're not picture perfect, they don't fit this ideal of, you know, this woman doing this very specific thing and that's it. No, they're complex, they have layers, they have feelings, they have emotions, and these things are often warring against each other. The character that I picked for this is Savine Dan Clocter from The Age of Madness trilogy by Joe Abercrombie. Savine goes through a lot of stuff in the Age of Madness trilogy. You really feel for her in certain moments, in other moments you realize that she is an incredibly morally grey character, and she is just doing things that really service nobody else but herself. And while, again, I can find some of that very questionable, she is really one of the most flawed characters that I've met, because again, she's very intelligent and she's very, you know, savvy. She's a very savvy businesswoman, but she very obviously has flaws, and some of those flaws include, you know, assuming the worst in people, not letting other people help her, and just kind of doing things gung-ho without sometimes really thinking about the consequences of those actions and the impact that that could have on the people around her. And even if she has those flaws, though, you know that she is doing it from a place of like maybe self-preservation. And I love the way that Abercrombie showed that this character, while she has these insane strengths, she is also an incredibly flawed individual who has issues that she has to contend with chapter to chapter. I love the fact that we got such a layered and complex individual in an already layered and complex world, and I loved it. I was here for it, and I think Abercrombie showed that he can write female characters extremely well. And I love women who are flawed. I love it when a woman is not portrayed as this perfect being that can, you know, do everything, because that's not the reality. The fourth thing that I like in my female characters is that they can think for themselves, but they know their limits. They know that they can do certain things, but they also know the limits of their own capacity, their own capability. And the person that I picked for this is an oldie but a goodie, and that is Hermione Granger from the Harry Potter series by J.K. Rowling. This series, you know, was formative for me in my younger years, as I'm sure it was for many people. And Hermione Granger is, again, you can see a common thing that I like in my characters in general, is that I love intelligent characters. And Hermione, we all know that trio of characters would not have been able to survive without her. She is really probably the most critical part of that trio. And the thing I love about Hermione, though, is that she knows that there are certain limitations of her intelligence. There are certain things that she is just not good at. A good example of this is in the first book, right? When the characters are set with a number of different trials they have to get through in order to get to the Philosopher's Stone. Hermione knows her strength, she knows Harry's strength, and she knows Ron's strength. And I think she plays like quite a critical role in identifying exactly what each problem is trying to solve for. And she knows that she can't do all three of those things, and each different trial plays to their respective strengths. Later on in the books, we also see that, you know, she acknowledges that, you know, Harry is particularly good at flying and that Ron is particularly good at whatever Ron is particularly good at. And I think she's one of those characters where, like, you know that pretty much in almost any situation she could figure a way out of it, but she knows that there are certain things that even she can't do, despite being the smartest character in the book. I think Rowling created a really relatable female character for a lot of young women, young girls. Hermione is still a character that I think about a lot because I definitely identified with her a lot when I was younger. It was refreshing, I think, at the time. I didn't know it at the time, but looking at it in hindsight, it was refreshing being able to read a female character who very clearly can think for herself, but does have limits to that as well. And it was great. The final thing, the fifth thing that I like in my female characters is I like it when they look for deeper relationships with other characters, whether that's romantic or otherwise. I think a really good example of this is Ciri from Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson. I love that book. And I love the fact that Ciri is put in a position where she is having to make the best out of a bad situation. And by the end of it, she really steps up and she really showcases that emotional intelligence and being able to build connections with other people is really important. And she does that out of her own volition. She really builds, I mean, in this case, it's a romantic relationship, but that really stems from a friendship, I guess, that builds really quickly. I just love it when there are women who are shown to be empowered, but not necessarily in the typical way that I think women are shown to be empowered, which is that they have like sexual freedom. That's one of the key ways that I think is often shown as a woman being empowered is that they have sexual freedom. But I like it when that is maybe taken a layer or two deeper, and it's more that they have the choice to build connections with the people that they want, and they have the choice to choose the people that they want in their life. I think Ciri is a wonderful manifestation of that because she's forced into a situation, but she comes out of it on top. And I think Brandon Sanderson did a wonderful job of showing somebody who was able to connect with somebody on a much deeper level and do that in a very intentful way. And I like it when a female character is doing that to foster connection and foster relationships and also build that over time. So as you can see, these 5 things that I picked, you know, they really help paint a picture of a multi-layered, a multifaceted female character that has depth, that has complexity. We're often shown women who are very one-dimensional, which we all know is not the case. And I love seeing characters, female characters, that open up our own eyes to our own vulnerabilities, our own insecurities, and our own strengths as well. And these 5 female characters in particular have shown that to me in one way or another. So let me know down below what you think and whether you agree with this list or whether there is anything else that you specifically look out for in your female characters or that you like in your female characters. And definitely give some examples because I'm always looking for more books where I can find characters who have, you know, at least some of these traits. So I hope you like this video. If you have any feedback on the format of this video, please do let me know, as this is the first video that I'm doing in this series. But I had really fun like prepping for this video and thinking about it, and I'm excited to chat about it. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more content like this, please do give us a subscribe as well. I will see you in the next one, folks. Stay safe, take care, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.